Hi everyone, I am Sam Bradley, she, her, UK and I Modern Workplace Manager and Chair of RSA Building Pride, and thank you for checking out this very, very special Inclusion Week interview with England women's football legend and, like me, fellow Newcastle United fanatic, Aran Embleton. Now, this interview spans diversity across LGBTQ+, gender balance, families, and before we kick off with any of that, I need to give you a little bit of an intro to Aran's astonishing career in football. So, Aran, you played for England under 18s before going on to play for the senior team. You were called up for the seniors at 14 years old, played for Sunderland, also played for top of the league Doncaster Bells, and you scored just a mind-blowing, staggering 50 goals in one season, offered scholarships to Connecticut, Harvard University in the USA, but stayed true to the roots, which I love, and played for your home club, and just recently cementing your place in history and being awarded your England legacy number 137 cap. It's like mic drop intro. Welcome, Aran, and it's so great to have you here.
Oh, thanks for having us.
Oh, you're very, very welcome. I'm going to get straight into it, Aran. We know the game is progressing at an unprecedented rate for women and LGBTQ plus representation recently. And I'm chomping at the bit to hear a bit more about your journey in football so far, how you got into the game and what was it like coming up through a very different time, coming up through those ranks.
Yeah, absolutely. I started playing football very young. I was roughly around about 5 to 6 year old. Playing with the boys in the street. So I would come in from school, get my football kit on, and out I went on the grass opposite that we called Wembley.
Yeah.
And the lads obviously knocked on the door every night to get us to go out, and off I went with my football and my little shin pads on. I was only about, I was tiny with my little cap on. And that really progressed to the boys team at school. And I played with the lads, I was captain of the boys team up until I was about 10-year-old, and there was a law came in by the FA at that point, which meant girls and boys could no longer play football together due to physicality. So it meant really there wasn't many women's teams around. It meant that I was really going to have to stop playing. As like I say, there was just no teams around. So my local caretaker, luckily bless him, he used to come around on breaks and watch us play. And he was I had a little bit of a fan club there because he was like, I was so good. He didn't want us to stop playing.
Wow.
So he said to us, look, I'm going to make some phone calls and I'll come back to you. Obviously, me being 10-year-old, I was just like, okay, like kind of thing. And and then a couple of days later, he came to us and said, I found you a football team in Newcastle if you're interested. And I said, oh, I'll have to speak to my mum and dad to take us along. Where is it? He said, well, if you give us your mum and dad's number, if you don't mind, I'll ring them and explain. And bearing in mind, my parents at that point, they knew I played football, and they'd seen us out on the grass all the time, and they bought us the football kits and stuff. But I don't think they realised my ability at that point. So he organised it. My mum said, I'll take you. My dad was at work, so off we went on the bus, and it was over in Cowgate. As you can imagine, it was quite a rundown area.
Yeah.
I went to my first game, and there was a car getting burned out on the next field. So I was a bit scared, and I looked at my mum and she was like, it's okay, and we're just on a normal pitch out in the park. And I went along, and I was 10, and I was only meant to go on the last 5 minutes. They just wanted to have a look at us, but there was open age because nowadays, as you know, they've got teams from open age, under 18s, 21, 16s, all the way down to 5-year-old. There was none of that. There was only 2 teams in the whole of Newcastle. So obviously I went, they were all twice my age, and some of them in their 30s, to be fair. And that was me, could have been pushed over. And literally. And I went on the last 20 minutes and scored a hat-trick. And then the manager came over and was like, wow, this kid's good, to me mum. And my mum was like, well, I haven't really watched that. This is the first time she's had a proper competitive game. And it started really from there. It was at that point, it's now known as Sunderland. It was called Cowgate Kestrels. So then they got took over further down the line when we needed more money and things like that. But yeah, I went from playing obviously with Cowgate Kestrels for about 10 years. And started playing for, I was playing in a tournament up here at Ponteland, at the police headquarters. And it was a Coca-Cola tournament for Cowgate. It was a 6-a-side tournament, and they had a few Newcastle men players turned up. They're trying, obviously, for the kids and stuff. And unbeknown to me, somebody had asked, because all England players were from London. Fundamentally, they were from Arsenal women. They were from Croydon at the time, which was high up. It was really southern. There's a massive north and south divide. So there was no one from up here. And I didn't realise, but someone had obviously kept going to say, you need to come and see this kid, you need to come and see her. And after the tournament had finished, someone like approached us, and it was like an older guy, and he said, can I speak to you for a minute? And I was like, yeah. And my dad come over thinking, who's this? And he said, look, I'm the England manager for the women. Well, you know, I'm really impressed with how you played there. And you'll be hearing from us. And it was really like, that's really how it went. You'll hear from us. And off you went into the distance, like something. I was like, oh, okay. Like, my dad was like, that's really good all the way on the car back. And I was like, yeah, it is. I was like, but where's he come from? Like, who is it? And we found out his name. And I was like, oh, I've heard of Ted Copeland. He's the men, you know, the England manager for the women. And I got a letter about 2 weeks later through the post inviting us to Bisham Abbey in London. Obviously, as a kid, I got this letter and it was all like England crested. It was all on behalf of the Queen. I was like, wow, looking at this letter going, I'm going to London. And my brother, who's got 10, 15 years older than me, lived down there. And obviously, me being so young, my dad put us on the train in Newcastle. I got off at King's Cross, and our David come and met us and took us across to, it was Maidenhead, where we're staying at holiday in there, and obviously training at Bisham Abbey. And I just remember getting there and being this little kid, and they were all, like I say, in their 20s to 30s, and they were big stars. They were like the biggest stars in women's football at that time. And meeting them all, being mesmerised, these stars that I'd been reading about in the magazines and things like that. And there was me from little old Dudley in Newcastle, with my Geordie accent, going, she's a Geordie, the baby's a Geordie. But yeah, I was up against it from a young age, because I was told that, like a lot of people up here said, you know, she'll never play for England. She's exceptional, but she'll never play. And I heard that from one of the parents in the crowd one day in a match, and I thought, I came away from it. And my dad said, if that doesn't spur you on, I don't know what will. And I think that was the biggest kick. Like, and I thought, why? If anyone can be chosen from up here, I'm going to make it be me, and I'm going to make them so they can't not notice me, because me stats are going to say it all. And that's effectively what happened. So from then on, I was involved. Obviously, I kept getting called back from then. And then I was playing in some of the training games. Obviously, they were trying to feed us in slowly, but I was going away with seniors. But then at that point, there was no England under 21s, under 18s, or 16s like there is now. They've got, even England's got all of them. There was only seniors. So then, after quite a few years being involved in the senior setup, they then brought in an England under 18s team. And at that point, I think I was 17, so I was still young enough to play for them as well. So I was playing at senior level, playing at under 18s, so I was going between the two as well as my club. And at that point also, and I left school at 16. That's when I got offered the scholarships from quite a few universities. There was the University of Columbia, Harvard, Connecticut. I went to do my SATs down in Manchester, because you need the SATs to get into the universities over there. But when it came to it, to be honest with you, I was very young, the other side of the world. I just felt like I wasn't ready for it. Yeah. And what would it do to my international career going to those places? So I decided that I would stay put and continue my career in the UK. And I did. I ended up going to like the first women's academy, which was at Durham Hoffel College. So that was the first one. And then I went on where the England FA decided their academy was going to be based at Loughborough. So I then ended up living at Loughborough, training every day, going away with England, going away with my team. But I had to make quite a hard decision further down the line, which was after all them years at Cowgate Kestrels, then they became Sunderland. They weren't in the WSL, as we call it now, league. They were below that in the championship. And because I was playing for England, I had to move teams. And there was nowhere in the Northeast at that level. So then the team next to that was Doncaster Bells, which were them in Arsenal were the best in the country. So I had to leave, unfortunately, Cowgate Kestrel, Sunderland, to then sign for Doncaster Bells and play in the Premiership to test myself against the best, really. And yeah, that's how it kind of went.
Oh my goodness, that is absolutely wild. And do you know what? It's amazing to think those women who you met on that trip down to London, you know, helped to inspire you. And I guess you've become one of those trailblazers as well. And it's inspired the game as we sort of know it and love it as it is today. And not to mention that mother in the crowd who thought you couldn't do it. A little bit of pain inspired, eh?
Yeah, that was it. So it definitely give us a kick.
Oh my goodness. I mean, I'm just reeling over that. But I think the thing that I do want to ask, and I'm seeing a little sneak peek of it just down there. How did it feel to receive that England legacy number? Was it the proudest moment?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, going down to St. George's Park, seeing the girls down there, I got presented mine from Alex Greenwood, give us mine. To know that I have a place in history, a number in history, and that I've, you know, kind of paved the way for the younger generation as we see it now, that we see them running around on TV. But ultimately it hasn't always been like that. There has been a very difficult road previous to that. And no, it was an absolute honour. Yeah, there it is.
Yes,
Yeah, so
love
we're
it.
all given a number, according to when, you know, from the first person to play for the country all the way up until, I think they're in the 200s now. But yeah, it was amazing. It was such a lovely moment, and I felt like, you know, I felt so proud that, you know, I've been able to represent my country to the highest level and also help other young individuals along the way as well.
Oh, 100%. And what an accolade. Like that spot in history. It's absolutely amazing. And I think sort of you know, you touched on it a little bit there, you know, how the game's changed. You know, we've recently seen stigma in the game relating to LGBTQ plus support and some countries not allowing teams to wear rainbow armbands, for example. I'd love to sort of get your view on this. And did you ever experience any sort of stigma like that?
Yeah. I mean, in regards to the rainbow armbands, you know, everyone should be able to wear what they want to wear. They should be able to, you should be able to jump up and down in regards to, you know, whatever sexuality you are. Ultimately, we live in the UK and we're quite free-willed in how we live and how our countries run. Unfortunately, other countries aren't, and I think the likes of UEFA, you know, you've got to think of a safety element for other people, because you've got the likes of, say, Saudi Arabia or other countries. If they were to wear their armband, they could be putting themselves personally in danger. Which that's probably the main reason why they did decline to do that. But ultimately, I mean, for us in the UK, we're very lucky. We can do that. We can wear those. Although the FA, again, I will stick by UEFA and do what UEFA says, which is meaning changing the armbands from the likes of rainbow ones to other ones. I know they had peace and different ones put in. I would love for the future that, you know, that shouldn't be an issue. Unfortunately, it is, and there's always going to be stigma. I'm just hoping, you know, with education and people like yourself doing what you do now, trying to raise awareness, that, continue to break down. I mean, years ago, for an instance, I worked in a job in a call center, and I went in a lift with somebody, and they wouldn't get in the lift because they'd heard that my sexuality, I was gay. Now, as you can imagine, I felt really awkward. I didn't want to be in the job. I nearly walked out that day. I was so upset, and it really hurt is the fact that I was thinking, was people talking about us behind me back, things like that. That doesn't happen now as such. Don't get us wrong, it may well happen, but it has moved dramatically from where it was from now until then. We've still got a long way to go. But I can see the progression, 100%. I can see the progression, but we shouldn't have to be parading around with bands on anyway, just to obviously show that, you know, how we are, what we are as individuals, we're one. Do you know what I mean? Whether it's we want to be with a man or whether we want to be with a woman, it doesn't really matter. Clearly it has done to other people, and that's why we do what we do now, to try and get past that barrier.
And do you know what? I love that it's almost to a point of, why do we even have to sort of wear an armband? It should be sort of intrinsic to the fibre of human beings that we're all inclusive, we're all one sort of energy, one global community. And equally so, you touched on a really important point there, which was almost like the duty of care to look after players' well-being from those countries, and ultimately respect the countries that we are actually playing in, at the same time respecting values, and equally so respecting ours. And I love the answer that you give for that. So tell me then, what sort of change would you hope to see in football to support women and girls and the LGBTQ community?
Just more awareness, what you're doing now, along with other people. I mean, I know that everything's a lot more televised nowadays, and the women are getting on the telly a lot more. I mean, when I played, we had one game a season, which was the FA Cup final. That was televised. That was 90 minutes. Women's football was on the TV in a full season. Now we've got nearly every single game on the telly. And it's being paraded in front of everyone, which is brilliant, on the back of what happened with the Euros and now the World Cup. I just feel, to make the change, we've got to still implement. I know there's stone walls obviously go side by side with the FA, and what they do is they put programs in for coaches, for teachers in schools, to try and make things more positive and more, to be obviously get more people included, and have the thought of people being positive towards whatever sexuality you are. So there's a lot of courses getting put in the background to try and drive the change in mentality than what there is now, and that's whether that be teachers or whether it be coaches. We do need more referees, but ultimately it's, again, there wasn't a lot of money in women's football. There really wasn't, and we really struggled when we did bagpacking because we couldn't get games and things like that. We did that was just a normal weekday, that going on to Asda on a Wednesday night, and we didn't have bus money to get with to London and for the weekend, so we're now bagpacking to try and make money. That was just the norm. That's all we knew. We paid to play, we paid subs every week, but ultimately, it's coming in now because you've got advertisements coming, big companies are ploughing the money in, and really it's down to the girls. The girls' success has brought that out of its shell. It's catapulted it by 10 years in the last year and a half to 2 years. So we still would be in a very similar situation. I mean, people didn't even recognise, no one really knew me. Why would they? I played years ago, it wasn't televised, and I played in a closed doors. Now people are recognising who I am, and that's because of, again, promotional stuff and TV, and me really trying to inspire others, but yeah, I think that it is changing, but it's taking a lot.
Yeah, and do you know what? That's almost like it's like the cultural nirvana. Like, can we get to a place where it's all just a non-issue, so we can just get on and enjoy the game and showcase everybody's talents? And I think you teed me quite nicely for my next question was, you know, for the parents, the caregivers, the guardians out there? How can they get, you know, daughters, nieces, you know, friends of the family involved in football? And do you have any advice for maybe young women who are already involved in the game?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's all about, I mean, finding clubs and wanting to get involved. There's loads on the FA website of your local teams, numbers on there to get in touch with people that run the football clubs. And now there's social media, is just obviously social media is the thing right now. And you see a lot on there where they're wanting people to go for trials or just joining in, and different age groups now where you've got people even over 45 still playing that they want to kick about and stuff. And really just, if you want to do something in your life, and no matter what age you are, whether you're a youngster and you're just coming into football, or whether you're on the older side like me, where I'm just having a kick about nowadays, then, you know, don't let anything stop you. Don't let anything stop you. And don't let anyone, you know, push you back when there's nothing you can't achieve in life. It's just how badly you want it. And I feel people are quite easy to be their own defeatists, really, where you think, I can't do it, and you haven't even started. You pretty much, if you put your mind to it, you can do anything. It's just, do you want it badly enough, you know?
I love this. It's life lessons with Aran now. This is I absolutely love where we're taking this. So bit of a tough question now for you regarding gender pay gap. You know, this isn't just across sports. This is in business, in companies as well. You know, great news. Lionesses have reached that agreement with FIFA now on pay bonuses. Absolutely fantastic. But what do you think can be done more to help break that gender pay stigma? You know, is it about getting people watching it more and getting more women playing? Because I think in the past it's always been down to, you know, the exposure of the team. The exposure is now there. Do you think that's what it's going to take?
Yeah, it is. It's getting to that point now. It really is. And like I mentioned before, to do with the money, money coming in, sponsorship, the money's getting now ploughed in from all angles, because they're, you know, companies are now wanting the girls as the face of their company. That was never the case before. You can imagine going to a football match. When I played for England, you had 1,000 people at the game. There's now 90,000. I was walking around the stadium again, the Germany game. I was on the pitch. They got us down there on the pitch and stuff. I mean, the 90,000 people, the gate money alone would help to obviously give them that wage. And we always got our expenses for traveling down to London or whatever, but we didn't get paid as such. And now they've got that opportunity, and it really, they should have had that opportunity from the beginning. But again, it's looked at as a business, and the business to them wasn't making the money. And women's football had no audience, and the door was closed. It wasn't exposed enough. There wasn't no exposure. Where now 100%, like, now the girls here and that, you know, they're going to get equal pay, things like that. Like, fantastic. I remember my mum, I think in the 50s, she was telling us, actually, funnily enough, she was 82, and she was telling us the other night when I went round, she was down in London and always on the front of the Chronicle, and my grandma used to go berserk, saying, there she is again, and she'll be standing equal pay for women with the boards, and she did that every single week. So
yes,
like,
ma'am.
yeah, exactly. She went, at the end of the day, like, everything should have been equal, and she's right. It should have been, and we are getting there now. But as well, on the back of that, you've also got to think about, you know, if can the women's game fill a stadium? Now they can. Could they previously? No. And again, where does that money come from? If you can't get it from sponsorship, no one's coming in giving you money. How can you pay someone when you're not? There's nothing coming in. Now that's not the case. The money's coming in thick and fast. Therefore, the girls should be getting paid the money they deserve, which is full pay, the same as the men now.
Yeah, love it. And hey, floodgates are open, and we're all reaping the benefits, either playing or watching. I am absolutely obsessed, and I think, you know, watching the recent game, the game last night as well. You know, their schedules are exploding. And I'd love to hear your perspective on this, because they've got, so many tournaments to compete in. We've got the Olympics as well. They're not getting a summer off until I think it's 2026, meaning more prone to injuries. Amazing opportunity on the global stage to keep pushing and promoting the game. So there's a bit of a conflict there, but you're going to sustain injuries. The physical and mental energy that they're going to have to be putting out, how can it be sustainable? So do you think it's sustainable, or should we maybe look to, we as in England, the greater we, should we look to send the under 21s to the likes of the Olympics instead and let the girls focus on the other tournaments?
I mean, the Olympics is one of the biggest things in the world, and I know some of the girls that's recently been part of the team, Jill Scott and things like that. For them miss the Olympics, like, obviously Jill's retired. Some of the girls that are there now, they want to be part of that. And I get the schedule is very heavy. And it was heavy when at one point in my own career, I was playing 4 games a week. I was playing for my academy team, I was playing for my club, I was playing for my country, and I was playing for my county, Northumberland. So like it can be really dominant on you, but the thing you've got to think about is that they've got physiotherapists there, they've got psychologists there, they've got doctors there that are with you 24/7, and there's a squad of 30, so there's plenty of times to rotate. And when they've been to a tournament, like say for example the World Cup, what you're saying, they come back, a lot of the players have had time to rest. They do get time to rest as well. They don't just get chucked straight in, even though the rest of the team are back together and they're training and going through fitness and coaching plans and stuff. They'll get time off to rest. They normally get about a month, and then they're back into it again. But I think, hand on my heart, we've got to have a Great Britain team in it at our strongest, because it's one of those, like, you've got the Europeans, you've got the World Cup, the Olympics is there with them, and to put in an under-21s team, I just don't think it would do with justice. A lot would give them time to obviously recoup from injury, but they know what they're doing. They've got, honestly, scientifically, you name it. I used to run around with oxygen masks on, heart monitors, lungs, see how much oxygen would come out my lungs. I could, any test possible, they do it. So they know, they do a lot of tests. Yes, you can't prevent injury, of course. Injuries happen, and obviously if you're continuously stretching your muscles all the time, but they know to keep them, to take a step back. They'll do like a light coaching session the day after a game. They don't push them to an extreme. Do you know what I mean?
Good to know. I mean, it sounds a little bit like Rocky V when, the Russian guys in training. But
yeah, I know
it's comforting that our lasses from Great Britain are going to be ready for it. So I tell you what, final question then. Yeah. How important are all allies in support of women's football and in sport generally, actually? And was there, I think you've sort of mentioned this person already, but was there anybody special who encouraged you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I had 2 figures really. I had the one, obviously, Ken, when I was a lot younger at 10. And Ken was great. It didn't matter, I was a girl. Like, to him, I was better than all of them, and equally I should be playing. It's very important you've got people to shout from your corner, so I wouldn't personally have got where I came from. Again, I had my dad massively involved, and there was a few things growing up, and I always wanted my hair cut, and it wasn't, because people used to say you want to be a boy, and it wasn't that I wanted to be a boy. I just wanted my hair cut so I could fit in. That was what it was. It was to fit in. But yeah, absolutely. Without those people around me, I wouldn't have made where I've got to. They were very important people, and they pushed me all the way. But they were my biggest. They shouted from the rooftops. And my dad was very old school, but ultimately he could see the ability, and he would have been the first person I would have thought would have been like, where like girls can't play football, because he was very old school and old fashioned. But because he's seen me play, I changed his. If I could change my dad's own perception about women playing football, then it could change anybody's perception. Anyone can change anyone. Honestly, it was that strong. Yeah.
Love it. And I'm so pleased that he did. And I think circles back quite nicely to what is next for Aran Embleton.
So what's next? So I've been doing a lot of talks, trying to inspire people, explain what it used to be like, obviously trying to get more girls involved. I've been doing a bit of commentary on the side, and also the very person I spoke about before with you, Ken, the school field I used to play on, when I mentioned about going when I was 10, playing for the boys team. I decided that my local team, because I'm from a place called Crampton and there's a place next door called Dudley and Fordley. Now, they've started a girls team, a women's team, and they've got all different boys teams, and they've got like clubhouse and a pitch, and I didn't realise this till late, it's not long been built and things like that. And I decided to go back to my roots. It was just one of them things I felt I had to do. I started there, and although I'm retired as such, I've gone back because I feel I want to play from me little town that never in a million years do I think that would have had been able to have a women's football team. That I'm now saying I'm playing for the women's football team in my local town, that I kicked balls against walls, that I played every break time on the field. If you had asked me this 5 years ago even, would that have happened? I would have said definitely not. I would have put my house on it, but it's happened. The change is happening, and I just hope that we continue to be able to make the change go on.
Oh my goodness, I love this full circle story, how this has just come back to something that you've always had an anchor to, like representing the Northeast, representing your country, and now like truly back to those roots, playing for that local club. I am absolutely buzzing for you, and I'm so excited to see what you're going to do next. And I think all that's left to do now is say a huge thank you. It's been so helpful to actually hear your perspective and your guidance and the insights into the game. And I think we're just all really excited to see what you do next, Aran. And thank you so much for your time. Good luck to you.
Thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you.